Welcome to your 10-minute manager toolkit. Today I want to talk to you about the line, because I know you worry about this. Part of the problem of being a manager in the current workplace is not knowing where the line is, how close you can get to it, what's going too far, what are the type of things that could be accidentally stepping over the line and getting you and your business into trouble. So let's talk about a couple of them. Let me give you some idea of what's the type of thing that's going to be stepping over. What are the red lights? What's the type of thing you can proceed more carefully on? And when do orange lights start flashing? Oh, be careful here. Curious? Let's talk about it. Let's go. So quick disclaimer at the top. A lot of these we stray into legal issues. This is general advice. This is not specific to your circumstances. I could be prudent and not talk to you about this, but it's better that you get some idea of the lay of the land. Your individual circumstances will vary. I can't give you specific advice. This is educational only. You need to get your own independent legal advice about your specific issues. Okay, disclaimer over, let's go. Today I want you to picture a cliff. Picture a cliff in your head. Now, I want you to picture a cliff top that you had actually been to. I don't want you to picture a cartoon or a postcard. What I want you to picture is somewhere that you've actually been. Because cliff tops are not, in reality, like the White Cliffs of Dover, where it's grass, 90-degree drop-off cliff face. An actual cliff top tends to be curved, tends to be bumpy, and is often covered in vegetation. The consequence of that is that as you get near to cliff top edges, you're not entirely certain about what is safe ground and what is not. As you look at that thick vegetation, the bushes, the small trees, you can increasingly think to yourself, it looks okay, but is it? I can go a little bit further. Maybe I can't. Maybe that's a bit too risky. That looks okay. That's as far as I'll go. The reason why I want you to think about that is when it comes to dealing with staff problems, there are some real red lines about what you should be very cautious of. And there's some stuff in which you could be overly cautious of and not tackle, and they need to be tackled, but you're cautious because you don't know where the line is. So today we're going to talk about that. And in this situation, I want you to think yourself at the cliff, and I want you to think of me as your guide. I want you to pretend I'm your HR person. I'm the person within your organization who is saying to you, okay, you can go a little bit further. Oh, hang on, don't go any further, that's going too far. Or, okay, proceed, but be careful of that. Essentially, I am your guide about how far is too far, what are the signs that you're running a risk, and how much little bit further can you go? Because the reality is you can always take no risk by doing nothing. But doing nothing means that we're not dealing with things that we do need to deal with. So let's talk about what are my red flags that I want you to really be careful of, and what are some areas on which I'm happy for you to keep pushing and keep going cautiously and carefully. And as you proceed cautiously and carefully, what are the things that I want you to watch out for? There's an old court judgment from the 1990s in which the judge said employers should have a pause button in their head by now. Now, how much they have or how much they haven't is a different question. But the metaphor is a good one. These are the red flags that if they fire off, then you pause. You hit that pause button and go, okay, hang on. Stop in our tracks, proceed no further. And I'm going to give you 4. The first one is don't issue verbal warnings. The very short version is there is no such thing as a on-the-spot warning. A verbal warning is not something you can do. You can't say, So I'm giving you a verbal warning. A verbal warning is not a process-free, on-the-spot fine that an employer can issue. So if you feel like saying, I'm giving you a verbal warning, don't pause, talk to me, talk to your HR person. Secondly, is ask for a resignation, saying you should resign, or you ought to resign, or I want you to resign, or asking them to resign. Big red flag, you can't do that. It's great grounds for constructive dismissal. It gets expensive. So don't do that. The next are a little bit more abstract. If you feel that you are punishing someone, like you are giving them a negative punishment for a thing that you are unhappy with, particularly if it's about pay, particularly if it's about conditions, particularly if it's opportunities, if you're cutting someone's hours in retribution for something else, big red flag, don't do that. Fourth one, and this is even more abstract, is talk to them like you're friends. You can be friendly with people. You can have collegial friends. Can you have staff that are your personal friends that report to you? Maybe, but again, big red flag. Let's talk about some keep going, but be careful. Proceed with caution. These are things in which you're probably getting friction, but on the other hand, it needs to happen. Keep going. Just be careful. You've got a little bit more solid ground on this cliff edge, but it might run out. Keep going, but keep going carefully. And these are just addressing all of those things that need fixing. So if you've got problematic behavior, if you've got someone who's being argumentative, or they're making waspish comments, or they're making snide remarks, or they're rolling their eyes and that's being disruptive, yeah, tackle that. That's something that you need to do. That's your job. You need to address that. People look to you, so address that behavior. You've got some solid ground, talk to them about that. If you've got performance gaps, that someone's just not doing a thing that they ought to be doing to the standard that they should be doing it, yeah, keep going, proceed with caution. The third one that is useful to talk about is resetting norms. We see this all the time. And talked about this last week. People accept the standard that they walk past, and people look to their manager about what's okay and what's normal. And if that's not addressed or brought up, they think, oh, well, I guess that's okay. That seems normal. Nothing was said. We'll keep going. That can be normal around here. And that can get us into some real tricky places. We can start again. We have the right to reset norms, to say, okay, that thing that was going on, we need to kind of nip that in the bud now. Yes, it was probably okay. Yes, the previous manager was all right with that. Yes, there was some flexibility that was okay back then, but from here on in, or in a week's time, we do need to stop that. That what has become normal, what has become the norm, we need to see that not the norm. As of today, as of tomorrow, as of a week, as of next year. When we come back from Christmas, this is how things are going to be, is a good way of just getting people to rethink things. That's something we can do. And that's something we have solid ground. We can push out a little bit further and be careful as we do so. This last one, if the first set was red lights, if this happens, stop immediately. If the next one was green, proceed with caution. This is your orange. This is your, you could go further, but you probably want to check as you go. This is the type of thing where there is still room to move, but someone probably ought to be watching you while you do it, and or checking you as you do it, or just someone else that you can bounce ideas with. This is that orange light. It's not red, but it's not green. And there's a couple of things. If your informal management, if your coaching, if your guidance, if your discussion, if your resetting of norms is just not seeing that change that we need, if informal wasn't working, we now need to turn this into a formal one. And we need to start clearly signaling that the employment relationship is at risk because this is not being fixed. Okay, that's something you can go down. but you probably want to get some advice on. If they've not shown up for work for a couple of days and we're in that potential abandonment space, that's a whole topic for another day. But again, there's quite a few complexities to abandonment other than just terminating them off after 3 days. Way more. If the fix that you'd put in didn't work, if there's a disagreement that is just continuing, or the whole relationship is really coming to a crunch point where that tolerance of those irksome, frustrating things has built up a head of steam, you can keep going, but you just need to be a little bit careful because they're probably close to boiling over as well. The third one, and this is probably telling something that you already know, where you would really be strongly recommended is that you do need to get some help on, which is you've got a disciplinary meeting that's gone off the rails. You've got a personal grievance. You've got a lawyer involved just in causing drama. Or the whole team's in crisis. Just everything is not working, and every day it's huffing and sniping, and one person's making a complaint and the other person's making a counter complaint. Okay, that's where you start to need to get someone else in to say, let's try and fix this because there's a lot of money on the line. Let me wrap this up with some straightforward advice. There is only a problem if someone has a problem. We can do things, we can be a little bit rusty or loose or not perfect from a technical point of view, but we don't really have a problem until we have a staff member who feels that they are not being treated respectfully or not being treated well or not being treated fairly. So what that means is that having a good professional relationship with your staff, which they can come to you and say, hey, look, I'm not comfortable with this, means as much as there are technicalities to worry about, we only have an actual problem if they ever have a problem with us and how we deal with them. Long podcasts require short outros just to give us some semblance of 10 minutes. As always, thank you for listening. Check out our websites, Managingmedical.nz or Managingtradies.nz, depending on what's closest to you and your industry. Alternatively, here is my 12-minute HR lesson, good for HR people, good for anyone who is managing staff and wants to just dig a bit deeper. If not, not a problem. Catch you next time.